All right, we're there in the mix. What's going on, guys? I don't know how to flip this to the satellite camera. It's not showing up. My phone was doing that a couple weeks ago, if you remember. Yeah, this is where we take your phone and we compare. I think that was the thing. Oh, I know what it is already. Maybe. Yeah.
Because see, mine pops up.
Oh, that's you. Yours? That's you. All right, man. Let's go into your Filmic and see what we got.
That gear. Looks like they're the same. Orientation.
Independent. Okay. That's the one difference. So let's see. Well, I'm gonna restart my shit real quick.
Yeah, mine's not showing up now either. I swear it was satellite camera, but
hey guys, we're gonna be shooting with Jeff Darrow and Dave Cho together. I already know one of the MacGuffins, man, for the conversation is convince Cho to smuggle his way into Japan and get Cho to convince Jeff Darrow to take up watercolors, because he got Stern into that shit, and he played me this like he had his wife or somebody like take the video of Cho at home, like playing the voicemail from Howard Stern, like thanking him for like watercolor instruction or something like that. It was pretty sweet. And everybody,
I'm ready for one of his watercolor instruction courses. He could do a master class with three of us.
All right. And he's got Joe Rogan on the hook too with the watercolor shits.
I'm not that for a cover.
Oh yeah. Yeah, ballsy as fuck, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't even.
This is the one that I like, and it looks really good in color. It's one of those pieces that go both ways.
No, I don't want this to be the remote. Or do I? We want it to show up. Oh, you know what, man? I bet this. No, it is on Wi-Fi and all that.
It's this satellite camera setting.
Is the
like that's what you want it on, and for whatever reason, like mine won't. I can't change mine. I don't know why that won't change. I had this issue before.
Mm-hmm. Mine's on satellite, but it's just.
Yours is on remote control. See, it won't change. That's what happened to me before and what is happening again. Okay, so get out of there and go to that, whatever that one is.
Yeah.
The gear up there, yeah. And hit device and hit satellite camera there. Didn't do it?
Yeah, it did. Sweet. Hit this light, Jimmy. Guys, we're going to be looking at the Amazing Screw-On Head Artist Edition. You know what? I might have to move the internet in.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to probably put up a different stream. I'll try to get this one to work again, but we'll see. Pay attention on the Patreon. All right, I think the stream is. Hey guys, do you hear us? Do you see us? If they see us, then
is it a new stream?
No, it's not a new link or nothing. But they were still going back and forth, so it stayed live. Okay, cool. Thanks, Jabba. Thanks, guys. Okay, that's what happens when you try to cut fucking corners. I guess save a little time. You end up losing it in the long run. And Rob McCollum, man, welcome home. What a journey, huh? But that'll never happen again. Oh no, it's the face. On satellite, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I see?
Oh yeah, it's on satellite.
So weird. Maybe I just gotta.
Try connect there.
Okay. And then it went away. It was there and then it went away. Okay. All right. Fuck. Let's do this, Jimmy. Pretty cool, right?
It's good to have that info.
And the art sings at that size.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to make this a half.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Welcome to your favorite YouTube channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
And it's the Michael Golden Amazing Screw on Ahead. And it's the Mike Mignola Amazing Screw on Ahead and Other Curious Objects Artist Edition that is under the microscope today on the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. A couple pieces of business. We're a daily YouTube channel. We have more than 1,700 videos available to you right now at your disposal. Hit the magnifying glass on the front page of the Kayfabe channel. Check out those episodes where we talk about your favorites, including this Amazing Screw on Ahead comic book. We're getting molecular today. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We're getting closer and closer day by day. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so. If you do that, gives you that ability to get the jump on the videos that we talk about. Last week, we talked about the Thor Artist Edition that Jack Kirby put together. There are a couple cheap copies available online afterwards. You ain't getting it for less than $600. So it behooves you to get these videos sooner than later. The fastest way to get them is to be on our Patreon. The King Kayfabe on our Patreon. They're hanging out with us in a live stream recording session right this very minute. And once we produce these videos, we deliver all vids to them before anybody else. Without further ado, Jimmy, let's crack open another embarrassment of riches.
It sure is. One of the things that this edition does really well, they don't adjust the levels, so you get to see the thin ink washes as we go through, and it's apparent on the cover. I actually like this table of contents. It's kind of different.
Yeah, they're doing some trickery, a little kayfabe.
But I like seeing like some of the mashups of different elements in here, and some of it really, he's so good, and we'll see examples of it again and again. Reminds me of Alex Toth in certain ways, and that I think he's spectacular at black and white compositions,
Of
but
course.
totally his own stuff.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I don't feel like it's a continuation of Toth exactly, but you know, like this kind of stuff where he's having a black coat in the foreground and just your square of light behind it. Same with Lincoln. Page after page has these, so I won't point out all of them.
Right.
But going through it this week, I was like, holy shit. Like it just is incredible what he can do. We've said it before with Hellboy and Hell Artist Edition. I think this size is the ideal size to look at Mike Mignola artwork. You know, it feels like there's something right about maybe the distance he looks at it when he's drawing or something, but it just is perfectly sized.
It's lettered by that Pat Brosio guy who did the same lettering in this Wolverine comic we're going to be looking at, and I love his hand style. It's built almost on the architectural, like the squares.
Yeah, I was going to say squares. Look at even like the detail of like the tower being askew slightly. You know, it's such an organic, what he brings to these kinds of architecture, it's very organic.
I get the sense that the time that he puts his tape on the paper and pulls out the T-square and triangle is really for panel borders, and that's it.
Yeah,
everything else is pretty organic. He eyeballs it.
It's just phenomenal. And you know, like this is what I mean by the spotting of the blacks. It's almost spotting whites is what he does. You know, it creates like a spotlight where it's like, here's your, you know, your attention, your focal point.
And it goes both ways.
I like when he does the big lettering too.
Yeah, when you see that, I mean, that's him, right?
I think so. It's so well integrated. I can't imagine a letterer having the nerve to do that without the consent.
Right. I was taking a close look at the lettering to see if maybe there was Ames guides erased off of it, or, you know, some indicator that it's a paste up. You know, if all of this work is together, that suggests to me that Mignola didn't get rid of any of these pages.
Could be. I think he's very fond of this story. I know I am. It's one of my favorites of his, and it's a short story, so it'd be easy to hold on to if you're, you know, inclined to keep some of your artwork yourself.
You get a couple super popular movies made about your shit, man. It's real easy to hang on to it all. Doesn't have to factor into your business model, right?
Absolutely. Also a fan whenever he's doing these kinds of like close-ups. There was one earlier of Lincoln in shadow. It's a tool that, again, I think young cartoonists keep that in mind. Have that variety of shots put together, like even something as dumb as a turnip.
Just looking at things like this too. I love the way he builds these figures. It has nothing to do with human anatomy, really. You know, it's these little rubber guys, and
it's the other thing in his work is there's a lot of Kirby elements, but completely his own. And I think of that in figure construction because Kirby has that. You know, it's I can bend this figure around, and it's not realistic anatomy, but man, it's great cartooning anatomy, and Mignola has that.
You start seeing this line, and you can't help but think that, you know, Matsumoto's a Mignola fan.
Would not surprise me. I don't know who would be a visual artist that's not into Mignola. This is what I was thinking of for the Kirby, you know, like those 50s monster pieces. But again, his own stuff. Like I don't think he's swiping a Kirby anywhere.
No, of course.
But it's such a big mass of like a character. I always like whenever he actually does some action. You know, that's classic. One
swooping line. It's a dead line, probably a rapidograph. Doesn't even look like it would be even a micron, you know, because it's so stiff.
Right.
And then designing his own anatomies, you know, like I always think of his soft shoulders, his like very rolled shoulders, but those feet too, or it's cartoon feet.
And I love Screw on Head is almost one of those models. You could imagine that it's completely like you could find the artist model reference,
right?
Especially with the joints and everything visible.
Totally.
Very fun. And I love this, getting scooped up by the anchor of that floating ship.
This is where Uncle Mike has to put on his thinking cap a lot, because we have like one of the few like daytime kind of sequences where the sky is illuminated. So where do you put those blacks? You know, that's something that he has to answer for himself.
Did you have that when you were learning to draw comics? Like I would look at comic book art and it'd be like the shin will be like black. And I'd be like, why does this, how, you know, it's not a real shadow. Jimmy. It's a comic book shadow.
I'm still there, Jimmy. I'm actually playing around in my sketchbooks trying to come up with a style that has less hatching. And if you do that, unless you're Jaime or somebody, like you got to figure out how to place blacks.
This is that same close-up size. We've seen at least 3 heads in this story that are like this size or approximately this size. And I noticed this in manga, like flipping through certain manga where it'll be like, there are 3 sizes and they just repeat. And I think that's instrumental, because do you really need 17 sizes? It's
Right.
close, it's far, it's medium shot, right?
Yeah. Man, I keep thinking about what you're saying about this is like the ideal size, and truthfully, just everything about it caters to the story. Like I like Dave Stewart, he's fine, it's great, whatever, but that is noticeable computer coloring, right? So you're bringing in a 21st century digital tool on these Victorian inspired stories, cognitive dissonance, but ink, like Georgia Washington used a fucking quill.
That's a good point. That's a really good point in this age of like moving into digital and AI. I love this for cognitive dissonance. Talk about the perfect page to drop that phrase.
Right.
These were such bizarre details in the comic book. It just really stands out. And there was a note on one of these, I think it was up front, it might have been a cover even, where it was like a note to Merry Christmas, Dave, to Dave Stewart. You made me look really good this year. But it was a drawing like that where it's like center of the page and just amazing.
Who's the first artist that isn't Mike Mignola that comes to mind when you see this? You don't think Munoz at least a little bit?
Oh man, wow, yeah.
The way that hair is?
Yeah, totally. Now that you say that, 100%. Even the face construction is weird. And that I associate with Mignola, but also that is a very abstract way to do a face shape. And Munoz kind of does that too, where he really bends that anatomy around on different characters. I don't know where this story appeared. This may have been in the collection, because they did an amazing Screw and Head book trade paperback, and I don't have it, but it's filling it out with some different short stories, some original for that book, and I think those are in here too. It's interesting to see the variety, because like the lettering is now off the boards.
Yes, and there's so much going on. All these like little shapes that are kind of competing. When you stare at it far away, there's a gray that gets created that I actually think that this story would be a good one, like for color, to be honest.
I enjoy his like the leaves and the foliage that he brings, and they're heart shapes.
Oh yeah,
leaves.
Yeah,
but they look really cool. So this is one he did with his daughter, and it's pretty fun. There's a certain logic to it. I think this may have won an Eisner Award or been nominated for it. But it's this snake and magician who are like pals, and the magician does a trick, and whenever he makes these shapes disappear, whenever they come back, he's going to die, and the snake is just beside himself. He's like, I can eat him, I can do whatever. He really doesn't want to lose his friend. And there's some wild drawing of a snake,
right?
Stuff that I don't know how you get to the level where that's how you think of drawing the stuff. Like I was looking at it thinking like I'd draw scales, I would be drawing like diamondback patterns, all this bullshit. And you see Mignola does it with like an outline, and that's it. That's all that you need. Interesting whenever he does this, where it's almost like one panel, even though it's actually like two.
Right.
But there's no gutter.
Yeah.
I always wondered like what makes him decide to do that. If it's supposed to be like simultaneous moments or something.
Right.
I'm not sure there is a meaning. I think it may just be an intuitive choice on his part.
And, inventing stuff that's not in the sky, but he has to make this work for his style. And that's just something that he came up with. And that's something that we all accept also, which there is some back and forth at play for sure.
It doesn't stutter your reading in any way, but he does go very abstract with a lot of this stuff. He gets into anatomy and some, like we'll see some more examples where like there are covers, but I adore this stuff where it's almost, bodies that are dissected. I feel like he also finds things that he's interested in, like a visual motif.
Right.
Because we're going to see it in a few other pages as we go through. And it's just like, it's very well done, very attractive. But, same with these like jellyfish looking creatures.
Right.
I feel like he just finds something. He's like, oh, yeah, I enjoy drawing these. And then you end up seeing them a bunch.
I mean, like Lovecraft is a giant part of the Hellboy mythos, and you have to have your crustaceans.
This stuff is fun because of how abstract it is. Like
right.
We've gone pages now without a human figure.
Yeah, it's like Ditko territory, like the astral plane type shits.
You just don't see a lot of that in American comics.
Mignola's always searching too. He is a fun follow on the social media channels, your Instagrams and your Twitters and stuff, because he's been playing with like watercolor the past couple of years, and you're watching him develop there, and starting off with less sure footing personally. Like he'll say like, this kind of got away from me, but like he's not there now after 2-3 years of playing with it. I think those pop culture drawings that he did started as a lark and then became something else. So he's he's always kind of searching, always kind of playing around and developing himself, which I think is it's crucial for, you know, an A-list creator.
It is, and yet it's not a default setting for A-list creators. They don't all do that.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I think of a lot of like the image guys, and I feel like they kind of locked in at a moment.
Yeah. Like my definition for A-list is a little bit more meritorious, or is it meretricious?
You know, that's a very abstract, these background lines. Another example of him just like, I think, finding shapes.
Right.
You know, he's very good. And it makes sense if you're going to do something that's this spotted black heavy, that shapes are something that, you know, you understand and think in.
Absolutely crucial. I mean, when you mention Toth or Eduardo Rizzo or any of those people that are real good at that, like shapes are important.
This is one of those panels that I'm in love with. But this panel made me think about Chris Ware, who does this kind of ornamental lettering, and how, like, even with that, there's so much range stylistically between those two.
Right. Little Eric Powell plug.
Dude, super fun to see him drawing comic books. Even the pages, you know, look like the Mike Mignola page.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you have like a true stylist, whatever they draw is in their style. You know, we play that game, let's isolate a little chunk. You could isolate this and it's between one of maybe 3 guys.
Yeah, some of this stuff reminds me, this is mid 90s maybe. This is probably some of this is the oldest stuff in here. That giant thumb is super fun, but you could isolate a panel of this and I might think it's a Mike Mignola imitator,
right? As
opposed to him. It's much busier than a lot of what I think of as his strength. And here we're going to get some more of this kind of foliage drawing style. Great when he does like mortar between bricks as well.
Yeah. He's definitely arrived at his own codified way to sell you on all kinds of different textures.
So there's a big gallery in this book, and that's where we're at now. It's going to be covers and things of that nature. You just get to see him having fun, I think. You're drawing a fox with an eye patch.
He is good. Like as a drawer, you know, like he can just draw a super compelling image. And that is not the strength of every cartoonist.
Pretty good texture for your alligator scale. Just this crosshatch, the side of Archie's head.
Right. Yeah, totally, man. I would put myself in the category of enjoying drawing for storytelling's sake rather than just drawing pretty pictures to draw pretty pictures. But he's clearly very good at that part of it.
Yeah, there's so many of these covers, and I just don't even think about. There are your droopy shoulders.
Oh yeah, I mean everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
everywhere. That's what he does.
Man, he's just emaciated at this point.
And truthfully, like the imitators, like that's the first thing I notice is they steal the proportions.
I enjoy all of the other details in his work, like drawing fruit.
Right.
You know, like who would even think of that? It's such a weird thing to include on your cover.
Right. And if like Lovecraft is your deal and you're playing with that kind of gothic horror, they call those bas reliefs, man. You got to figure out how to draw them shits. That ain't easy.
That's your Hellboy in Mexico, which is the Richard Corbin drawn like Lucha Libre Hellboy story. I think we have a video on that for people who are fans of Hellboy and Richard Corbin. Go check that one out.
We mention it routinely when Mignola's under the microscope, but this is a Frazetta composition. Mm-hmm. Like that's a Conan image.
Yeah, even the ones that aren't kind of are. You know, like this is another one.
It's informed.
If you told me that was a Frazetta homage, I'd be like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and look at that, dude. He's playing with like some luminosity by having these like double stroked lines.
Yeah, you know, the note that I would want on these are dates. I wish it was easier to see like what the actual timeline on some of this stuff is. Great printing, man. It's very, very kind of funny cartoon. We were looking at this before camera started for just an incredible cover. Reminds me a little bit of Kriegstein has that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's piracy, but it's a boat on the water, and the water is just kind of like this unforgiving environment.
Right. Yeah, and as a cover, you know, that's not the most identifiable Abe Sapien or whoever that's supposed to be. So it flies in the face of salesmanship in a way. It's really, you're selling Mike Mignola.
Definitely. No doubt about it. Look at this monster. Just a mouth full of teeth. I love this one too. And this is a really good one if you see it in color because it's dramatically different than the black and white version.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it's rare these guys who look good both ways and where it looks different and works both ways.
We're using a bit of a Wally Wood.
it's a War of the Worlds kind of thing. Like that's your Martian invasion, right?
Give me a second here. Check. Check. That's really. I'm hoping that our audio. Oh yeah, it is okay. I wasn't seeing any bar.
This is a pretty unusual cover in that it's almost a comic book page.
Right.
Several panels. You don't see too many of those, at least not in this collection.
Yeah, I wonder how it looks in print. Like, is it even a back cover? Maybe. It says front, but because you just wonder, like, where's the title go? Like,
and a lot of room.
And I imagine that's a place for a UPC. Like, why would you put that on the front?
Man, that makes me wonder about all of this, like where lettering is going. I mean, some it's very obvious,
right?
But some of these other ones, it's not nearly as obvious. He draws tentacles so well. Talking about his Lovecraft. One of these covers is for a Lovecraft collection,
right? This is fun because we can look at an adjacent Judge Dredd Brian Bolland cover that has very similar
one of my favorite Brian Bolland,
spiritual.
That's a great one.
And then we could have such a discussion of style, right?
That's such a cool one too because it's essentially just monster mouths.
Right.
Character design is very strong as well. That
Real
gas
steampunk.
dude, that's just like a sock, a condom. I was admiring the chains.
Yeah.
Where like some of them are just white, like you might expect, but then other places he's drawing the links.
Right. So where shadow is.
Some are shadow. Some are completely like black for the links as opposed to the white just next to it. That'd be a nice addition to the Full Moon zine. That's a big one.
And I bet because it's a Hellboy comic, it factors into the narrative.
Yeah, probably. I also think he enjoys whenever it's time to like, let's look at an old scuba rig, right? Doesn't that seem like it's something he should have invented?
Yeah, it's such his aesthetic.
Even having like gotta have a little hook on the end, right?
Yeah, dude.
And there's a couple of these places where like you'll see almost getting into the watercolor washes.
Oh yeah, that piece that we just this shit.
Yep, that's one. There's a couple of them, but you can see like that's something he's been, I think, imagining for a while or playing with a little bit. This is pretty great for depth, having the different size figures and then having them overlap like that,
stacking them up, and the way he builds the anatomy with that super skinny wrist with the big glove, that's pretty sexy. There's a Lovecraft piece.
Yeah, there you go. Makes perfect sense. If you're publishing Lovecraft, wouldn't you be hitting up Mike Mignola?
Yeah,
as your first choice,
and he'll probably do it for a discount. Don't quote me on that.
See, here's some of that anatomy too. So simple.
Yeah, this is great, man. Because like this is his version of the Frankenstein monster,
Mm-hmm.
So sweet.
It's a good interpretation, seeing like muscles and things underneath.
This is a good addition to hang on to and to check out for your own personal drawing inspiration. There is no doubt about it.
It's so good to look at. Absolutely. And I think it's 10 years old, which is like, let's put together another. I'm ready for another Mike Mignola artist edition, is what I'm saying with that, Ed.
Has he drawn enough pages since Hellboy and Hell and stuff?
Well, you know what? I think they're planning to do another Hellboy in Hell, maybe, which is a really great. Like that's my favorite version, is the artist edition. With no words, no color.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like he draws a lot. Mm-hmm. So, and if you think of like half of this book is like that gallery in the back, right. I bet she's done enough in terms of like the single images to fill out half of it.
Embarrassment of riches, man.
Absolutely.
Get yourself the Screw on Head artist edition while you still can. Good to go?
Yep.
I'll do that Wolverine, Jimmy, for yours.
I ordered the EC Comics Artisan Edition this week. It's one of those I really regret not having, is the artist edition.
Right.
I had to break down.
Is it volume 1 or volume 2?
Volume 1. It has Master Race in it.
Yeah, it's the second one has the chicken story.
Oh man, I didn't realize that was in a different volume.
Yeah.
I like that chicken story too. That's that cover of his squash run.
We'll do black and white for this one. Let me get that so I can see how close I can pull it.
That chicken drawing is amazing.
Yeah. You know, something that Jeep brought up that I don't know about, maybe you do, is we were talking about cartoonists trying to unionize, and he mentioned Krigstein was the first to try to get those conversations underway. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know that one either.
I didn't get him to elaborate. I should have. Next time I get him on the hook, I'll ask him to jump off there. He was shot out of a cannon. I don't know if you saw that at all, but he was ready to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like
he had an agenda, man.
Makes sense.
And it was all sweet, man. And he was talking about like you don't understand Kirby if you don't read a gang of them romance books, because of like the pathos and stuff that he builds into that is like the groundwork for his Marvel superhero works.
Boy, that makes a lot of sense. And
the love triangle stuff,
almost removing one more brick that you think Stan Lee that's probably his contribution.
Yeah, totally. Because he talks like in all his big like original romance books, it's there's a love triangle with the bad boy and then like the good family man. Let me grab something real quick.
Dave, do you know what that cover went for?
Jimmy, will you find that issue?
I always think about buying these essentials, the Wolverine essentials.
Promoting it because this one is Silvestri, and then the next one is
Tex.
Is Tex.
Yeah, I like his stuff a lot. This was the other story. This is the story that preceded it. Whenever
put this there when you need
it. The team come together, Hama and Silvestri.
Right.
And it's really good. It was a 3-parter is why I picked this one. I figured it was a one and done. But it might actually be my favorite Mark Silvestri, the preceding trilogy. Because he's good.
Yeah.
I was looking at the green inks on this, and it feels like some of them are so fast.
Oh, totally. Yeah, like the lines aren't connected or nothing. And I think that like the other guys picked up on that because like Rob talks about that in his Stan Lee video, and because Stan Lee picks it out, and Rob is like, "It's my trade secret," but he doesn't seem like he's joking. Like he's like, "Stan, shut up," kind of. Like that's like a piece that those guys picked up.
I remember Ernie Steiner, like, I'm 16 talking about comics, and that was one of his tips is like, you don't always connect the lines, and showing a bunch of different artists that did that. Yeah. And I think the implication was it's a little bit more lively.
Interesting.
Without that.
Interesting. Yeah.
And you know what? Dan Clowes does that. And it's something that I always liked on his. Usually
he does the
outside,
background.
Yeah, where it's like not touching.
Yeah.
But it still creates like a space or something.
You got to do that. Like I absolutely do that. And sometimes people get egregious. Like Crum will have a lot of white space around and I think that looks great. But I never, he doesn't do that with his characters, Clowes. I'm good to go if you're good. Guys, we're looking at Wolverine number 34, and I want to sell you heavy on getting Essential Wolverine number 2 because it has like a good chunk of the Mark Silvestri run. It might be exclusive. Yeah, it's all Mark Silvestri in here, I think. Or no, there's a little Buscema, but it's the best.
Once we start selling this, like I'll sell all 3 of them. I feel like there's good art in all 3 volumes.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, there's more videos to make, Jimmy.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Welcome to your favorite YouTube channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Wolverine number 34 is under the microscope today. We're looking at Mark Silvestri throwing his fastball. Got to let you guys know we are a daily YouTube channel, more than 1,700 videos at your disposal. We might have talked about some of your favorite comics. Hit the magnifying glass on the front page of the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel. Give the channel a search. Check out those episodes. We're getting close to 100,000 subscribers. With your help, we'll get there sooner than later. So make sure you subscribe to this channel if you get some value out of it. It helps the channel in a big way and makes it possible for people to see the videos a little bit more. It's got a Gusto's algorithms. You know what I'm talking about. If you want these videos before anybody else, though, become a King Kayfaber on our Patreon. We're hanging out in an exclusive chat room as we live stream the recording of these videos. And once we wrap up for the day, get to editing, we deliver these videos fully produced to the Kings before anybody else gets access. And there will be a little kayfabe affection going on here today on Cartoonist Kayfabe. Jimmy, as we take a look at Wolverine number 34, you cited it as your first Mark Silvestri Wolverine, and maybe your favorite.
Not my first, but definitely my favorite. He had done 3 issues before this, but I was such a Mark Silvestri mark. Like, this was his book after X-Men.
Right.
And I remember being like, kind of mad at how they handled it. In a weird way, it's sort of what they did with Silvestri, or with Claremont, where they kind of dump him off of X-Men unceremoniously.
Right.
I felt like they did the same thing with Silvestri because he was my first X-Men artist. And I thought, this is great, loved it. When he gets to Wolverine, it's almost even a little bit more choppy, scratchy, I say quickly drawn, but I don't know that that's the case. Maybe quickly inked. Whatever it is, it felt raw and has this energy. And I mean, it's on display right there. Like, look at that arm muscle of just all kinds of stuff happening.
He still is adhering to good storytelling here. He's still pulling in the best of what he learned from John Buscema. Like, if you look at the old King Conan stuff that Silvestri drew, he was totally cribbing like Buscema vibes. So we said it before, say it again. Dumb down for your audience, double your dollars. Like, this is not what the kids were buying in like 1996. He Jim Lee'd up his shit, went full Gilbert, and triple or quadrupled his income. But the man had chops. And you were making suggestions that maybe it's quickly inked. Now, this is when the book is monthly, but he drew at a pace that was able to accept a bi-weekly schedule. So the dude was able to draw 44 pages a month. I think he could draw pretty fast.
Yeah. And man, all credit to Dan Green, who inked this and a lot of those X-Men issues. And like, to me, that's that secret ingredient. And it's the ingredient that didn't go to Image with Silvestri.
Right.
And really bummed me out. But we'll see lots of good stuff in here of those two collaborating.
I think a part of it was sharing that studio, being able to look over somebody's shoulder, and somebody who's more financially successful than maybe, you got to pull in some tricks. But look at what this man is able to do. I mean, he's able to pull from really the best of Milt Caniff. And I don't know if we sit Mark Silvestri down and say, hey, man, what are your thoughts on Milt Caniff? For some reason, that came to mind throughout this entire issue, but I don't know that he's down with that pedigree. He's so methodical in media trained at this point that he doesn't give up the ghost that way. That would require us to extract some of that stuff out of him. But he has cartooning built in to this artwork. Some of that you see slightly carry over, but there is a tremendous amount of craft that he's able to pull off here that he just, it goes by the wayside in the Image works. And off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys, man, Wolverine number 34, excellent fucking comic. This is a excellent issue of Monthly Comics.
One and done too. And here's some of the thoughtfulness of the cartoonist, right? We're having a flashback. This guy escaped, shot his way out of a courtroom, and you see no shadows, no black spotted. Whenever we get to the foreground, the guy that's narrating the story, you got heavy black on the side of the face. You have it in his shirt. It separates that foreground background. If you were looking at this in black and white in the essentials, it would still work.
You're right.
You're not reliant on the cartoonist, but he does a lot of this stuff too. Just really thoughtful spotting of blacks in his compositions and variety. Look at, close up, medium shot, long shot.
Yeah. I thought everybody's firing on all cylinders, including the letterer, but the story, it's a good pulp comic, Larry Hama at the helm. It is one of those comics. There are about 5 coincidences built into one story, which, obviously it would never happen. It's not how should I explain it? Like, it's so far out, but in terms of pulp comics,
yeah, absolutely.
It's fantastic.
And you mentioned the cartoony stuff. I see the contrast between our young Mountie that has kind of this long head versus our bad guy, our Heavy, who has like a very squatty kind of head, almost square shape.
Right.
And I remember having this book, I think it was Jack Ham, and it was like how to do caricatures. And it was all the different shapes, that you can make heads. And Silvestri has that, like, as a cartoonist, that kind of exaggeration and fun, it's on display here. When he's at Marvel, he has that.
Totally. Mike Mignola is out at this point. Like he is developing his chops. Cosmic Odyssey might have already happened. And at this time, 1990, Mignola was an artist. Man, who do we have on the record who was saying that Todd McFarlane was trying to talk the other guys out of bringing Mignola into the style? I think it's the
Liefeld Comics Journal interview that we did recently.
And these kind of shapes, this would not be in a Silvestri comic if it wasn't for Mignola.
Yeah.
he did not do these kind of silhouettes earlier in his career.
The shadows of the trees on snow, phenomenal.
Yeah.
And some props to the colorist. That light blue on top of the snow with a lot of white snow still left. It's just so effective.
We have flashbacks with some of the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, or however you string those words together. Dude was in the military. There's like urban legend, folklore kind of elements built into this, and it's suggested, like, I think Hama early on in the story wants you to think that, what's the thing called, the black the
Hunter in
the Hunter in the Darkness. He wants you to think that it's Wolvie.
Yeah, they have some history there.
Because we get 10 to 12 pages in, and they mention this Hunter in the Darkness a bunch of times. You see Wolverine hunting and things, so you assume it is him.
Look at the great coloring as we get into Twilight.
Yeah.
We talk about don't do the blue skies. They're doing the purples and the reds and the pinks on your sky.
Yeah, I need to see who that is because they deserve some credit for this, man. Glynis.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver, not Ween at this moment.
It's very sharp. Even the transition into night now where it's like purples have replaced those magentas.
And it's a page turn, like where you get your little revelation.
Yeah, hopefully this video does well, because I would dig into actually some other Sylvestri Wolverine
Absolutely.
stories.
Yeah,
the
LCD
story that precedes this is really strong, and he's on it for probably at least a year, maybe more. He does probably 15 issues or 20 issues. He does
way more than that, because when it gets into the bi-weekly stuff, I think you start to rack up your numbers.
He definitely gets up to issue 50, and he starts at 31, so it's a good run.
Yeah. Is it Tex who's right after him? Or is it like Dwayne Turner?
There are
Dwayne
little
McDuffie?
fill-ins of like an artist here, an artist there, because that's right. Tex follows, and like he does 6 issues or so, and I love those too.
Right. That image right there, right? Like I think this comes from Cycle of the Werewolf, maybe. Like I think there's a Wrightson image that has this vibe. Maybe it's Creepshow, the little lycanthrope in the box.
Does this remind you of Frazetta?
Yeah,
I feel like the figure
absolutely.
like rising up out
Absolutely
is a good one. Again, I compliment the colorist. This flashlight effect of yellow, pretty simple, but works well. This is one place I'm not sure of, and it's the Hunter in Darkness is basically ripping Wolverine's guts out.
Yeah,
but it happens at the same time as we have like a rifle shooting,
right?
And it feels like the bullet's going through the middle of that panel, but it's not. That's an independent thing.
A great little piece of dialogue here. Got to hold everything in until my mutant healing power can kick into overdrive.
Got to explain everything to the potential 9-year-old readers out there that might not put it together.
I mean, that's in your sort of, right wing, like pulp paperbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Has like My Camera books have that dialogue in there.
That's a good call.
And Hama is a dude. He shows up. If you want to manifest Larry Hama into your life, if you have a Facebook account, just ask which Elmore Leonard book should I read next, nice. and then he manifests it to your life and will tell you exactly which one you need to start following. So he pulls from those traditions.
How about that ad for a time capsule?
Yes, sir. There it is, man. That's series 1. Never had my hands on those ones.
It's such a ground zero this time period for like the big speculator boom that is mounting. There's a lot of it in here.
So one of the backstories that's in here is the more grizzled senior Mountie is he's losing it, and he's recalling a time when he gets jammed up in they were doing some sort of nighttime air raid, parachuting down, got caught up in the trees. Somebody is like trying to help him down, but they put their little lighter on. And what do we know, man? Like, I've read enough military comics, right, that like you don't in the dead of night allow any illumination to be seen, man. So
can't give away your position, and that's what he does.
Yes, but there's one lone Canadian trooper fighting for the motherland, I believe, man, fighting for Britain with a knife, who runs into those guys straight away.
Yeah, it's a fun device, that old man, and it is really very pulpy. This story and the one that precedes it. I think that's something that Hama figured out. That was the pitch whenever it was like, hey, do you want to do Wolverine? I think that's what he brought to it, was that kind of like old male paperback reader kind of sensibility.
I was thinking about it because like even on page 1, nothing cleanses the soul, blah, 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 especially my roots, because I can't remember half of them. So that's what Claremont would call a tabula rasa, meaning a blank slate. that you could put stuff onto, but that could be trouble also. You could take this damn character in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it's a lot of what's going on. This is in the heels of Weapon X had just come out, and I think everybody was like, "Oh, what are we doing with Wolverine's past?"
So if you noticed, Wolverine isn't eviscerating this old beast. He's kind of just pushing it away, letting it chomp on his arm and things, because we're going to jump into another flashback sequence, because now these characters have history. So Wolverine is everywhere, because that's the we'll give up the Ghost. Like, he has history with the paratrooper guy. Turns out that he's the dude running headstrong,
of course,
with a knife, killing all the Nazis.
For having such a mysterious past, I feel like we need to just break out like the push pins and the thread.
Right.
Because we've got all kinds of information coming out. And this is just one issue. We've got about 4 pieces of his history.
There is a kit, like it's not a children's book, like a picture book. It's like a 15-point font, like novel. That was the Wolverine novel. And what they did was they took every comic book appearance that had anything from the past that was suggested. So the entire Weapon X is in there, but anything like these beats. And then the lady like wrote a linear story. Like, I loved it as a kid, man.
It's so funny. How about that for Silvestri trying to do like the dog emoting,
totally
being in pain or whatever?
Yeah, we're getting into Chaz Truog, Animal Man comics right here. But I was marveling at, dude, fucking Megaton Man showing up.
I love it. It's one of my favorites. And a lot of Frazetta on display in that figure too, in the shadows.
Absolutely. Just great body language. Like, he really knows how to twist these characters up and make them look super heroic. Like, look at that.
It is pretty silly that it's whenever it's time to go into the Pacific Northwest snow. Let's make sure I'm wearing the costume.
Yeah, like what a contrivance. And Larry Hama is such a man's man that like he just clowns it himself.
They do. I think the old Mountie makes fun of it, and I think that guy who's on the run makes fun of it.
Yeah, because you have to build it in. It's a Wolverine comic, and they were able to sort of get along, for a year or something with the patch thing, but that was to get Buscema on the hook, who fucking hates superheroes. You see a very tiny glimmer of future Silvestri with these kind of marks right there. Super little tiny glimmers. There it is again. Why do it once if you could do it twice? That cycle of the moon or whatever that Bernie Writes in Peace was. I know. I'm thinking of something. These Dan Green marks, it's the only time he does these, but they're sort of the most Kniff-ish looking marks. And I wonder if we can put the Kniff pieces of this like on Dan Green. Like, I think I was
going to say that would be the other place it might come from.
Yeah, I think he has a strong pedigree.
Because when you point at this, I just think like Scott Williams would be so different. If you had him going over this art.
Right.
There's a real organic quality to the marks that Dan Green makes.
Yeah.
And you see it in like the hands, you see it in a lot of places, and it just really appealed to me. I used to email with him a little bit, and he's no longer with us.
Yeah, rest in peace.
But he was always a great guy in terms of like the correspondence and stuff, because I was just so interested. I don't know anybody that really inked like him, because this is not like a Marvel House style inking. It's not Joe Sinnott that's being channeled on these pages. It's really a pretty unique approach to inking. And if you look at Dan Green on other pencilers, I don't see it as much.
That's true.
Like, it's a synergy between he and Mark Silvestri. Whatever Silvestri is putting down in pencil, those two just created something that I don't know where else you find it.
And isn't it sweet in the days when there's like practical sound effects and that type of lettering treatment? I think this is probably like Ames guided in black, and then they do some inversion. I seem to remember on Xeroxes you could even do it like an inverted thing. So that one's a paste up. But man, it's so organic. Let's tie things up in terms of like the thematic rhythm. We mentioned the flashback sequence earlier. The trooper who was trying to help our guy who was jammed up in the trees flick the lighter. Well, our main baddie is going to flick the lighter and give up his location to the hunter of the night. So we're getting back to the past, and the old man is racking his brain. Who is that guy? He had a Canadian name. You ever think of Logan as a Canadian name? I only do because of Wolverine.
Yeah, right. Wolverine put that name on the map in Canada. Another heavy Frazetta like panel there in the bottom left corner, and the prose here of like what that corporal or what that old man is hearing in the flashback of like meat and knife and bone cutting up as, you know, old Wolverine in World War II doing damage with just his knife cutting these people in pieces. But it is that pulpy language, the purple prose of violence.
Now, in our recording session for the day, which I think people understand that we record a bunch of episodes at once, and so that we can put them out daily, there was some Frazetta talk before, like in terms of these grand fight scenes where people pile up. It is hard to do. Like, it is a very hard thing to compose. You think that, like, you've seen it a million times in comics, so you think that that gets a part of the tool set. Almost every single one of those times you saw it wasn't artistically well composed. Hal Foster can do it, and he is the senpai to Frazetta. So it's like both of those guys. You have Hal Foster, you have Frank Frazetta, who have those chops. They're Kirby can do it, but his is so stylistic that if you crib Kirby, it's going to look like Kirby. But at least if you crib Frazetta, like, the anatomy might be closer to the way that you draw anatomy. But it is definitely something to be commended, because you just can't take it lightly. I really like the lettering in this comic too.
It's really a different time period, and maybe the end of this time period when comics were built this way.
Yeah.
You know, and the guys who are doing it at that point, they're sort of at the apex of what that method is, that Marvel monthly kind of action comic method.
Yeah. So to Kayfabe affect you guys, I can't recommend highly enough the essentials that collect, 20 plus issues of these particular comics. Any of the first 3 Wolverines will do you well. What happens after a while is when they start going digital color and stuff, I don't think they have photo stats of black and white pages, so it'll be like grayscale.
Yeah, that's so disappointing.
And those are trash. But these are done early enough where the computer was not really involved. So you get some colon. You're getting a little bit of Buscema in here, but
himself, I think
the bulk of it. Oh, this is Byrne and Klaus, I believe, or maybe just Klaus.
Might be Klaus
and Tom Palmer.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
I remember getting this issue at a flea market. I still have it, enjoy it, love it.
And the first volume is Buscema. There's a Gene Colan. There's a big John Byrne run in it.
Yeah,
it's a nice. All these first 3 volumes all have some really nice artwork. There's a McFarlane. This is the beginning of the Silvestri run, and it's a lot more graphic, I think, than like his X-Men stuff. Choppier, darker. Right. I absolutely love it. These first 4 issues are probably my favorite Silvestri.
Yeah, we should do that as like a Sunday video.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's him fighting Yakuza. It's really good.
It's sort of tying up the patch stuff so that we can that we could go off into more superheroic territories and stuff. But you see the relationship between Dan Green and Mark Silvestri so beautifully in the pristine black and white that I think that you got to have these to study. And the 3rd volume, it continues some Silvestri, but then we're going to get the Mark Tex stuff in there.
Yeah, it's a fun run. Like, I was buying these in real time, man, for whatever that is, 5 years worth or something. That run.
Yeah,
and I really like Mark Tex's run as well. So it's a good series.
I had that action figure, dude. They made the Cyborg Wolvie action figure. Is the girl's name LCD? Or is it RCD?
You know what? I think it's LCD. I never said it out loud to get that.
There's a goddamn the chick transformer is like one of them. Is it RCD? I forget. Like some sort of digital computer related something or other. Unless they're both LCDs.
Yeah, really. Good idea.
There she is, man.
Becoming a series.
I don't remember if she had a toy, but maybe because this was huge.
Look at this is like, I think
that's Mignola again.
Of Mazzucchelli comes to mind too. It's just like really phenomenal negative space.
Yeah, it's a shape really, because like Mazzucchelli knows the figures so well that it would look like just the greatest Olympian or something like that. When these issues were coming out, this era of comics is when I was like very, very regularly on my own on the pedal bike, going to the Rite Aid with all of my lunch money from school, and knowing that it wasn't really an exact 4 weeks for the next one. I swear sometimes it would be 3, Sometimes it would be 5 or 6. So I would just go religiously and always be disappointed that like, oh, I already have this Wolverine until the next one is out, and the rush of that is almost nothing to beat it.
I would call, it was so great in a way having that surprise. I would call the place in town where I would go, because like they'd get their call, I can't remember, Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it was, the same day each week. I would call and be like, hey, did you get an X-Men? Did you get this or that? Can you save me one of those? And nobody else is even buying them, right. I don't think. They had to be so annoyed because it was like a store that sold cigars and newspapers.
Right.
You know, like they weren't interested in looking at the spinner rack to tell me if the new issue of Wolverine came out.
Yeah, this is cash wrap materials, man. when you're selling $8 cigars,
yeah, exactly.
A $1.75 comic is a drop in the bucket.
So annoyed.
Good to go?
I am.
Look at all that flotsam and jetsam coming out of our guy.
Sometimes it'd get away from them a little bit, but man, they were good in black and white.
Where did we put that Hate comic? I swear I
put everything in this pile.
Okay, sweet. Guys, we're going to look at Hate number 27. It has a backup story by written by Pete Bagg. R. Crum draws it in the style of Kathy Guys White.
So weird. I never saw this story before this week, and I just don't even like it. It makes less sense to me now seeing it than whenever you described it.
I'm going to go color with the background. Jimmy, I think we're going to get through mine, and then we should probably move into the other, because I got to do it Zoom with the fellas, and that takes a little extra adjustment. But yeah, we gotta keep that in mind, because like we could have fucked up the vid again today if Jeff wasn't a little hyper vigilant and wanted to get things right, and I'm sort of like, oh, dude, you just click this, it's no problem. He's like, this ain't working, Ed, and then I went on a thing with him, and it does not work. So I think that happened with our guest last week, and then he got frustrated and was just like, fuck it, man, I don't want to do this. Is this mine?
No.
Where did I fucking just put my copy?
I have no idea.
I swear I just had it.
Oh, it's tucked into Wolverine.
Yeah, so go get your copies of Hate 27 while they're still cheap.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir. Welcome to your favorite YouTube channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Hate 27 is under the microscope today, specifically a backup story in Hate number 27. First, we want to let you guys know that we are a daily YouTube channel. We have more than 1,700 videos at your disposal right now. Chances are we might have talked about your favorite comics. In order to find out, go on the front page of the Kayfabe channel, hit the magnifying glass, search for your favorite comics, check out those episodes. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Get us there sooner than later. By having your support in that way, it pushes our videos out to more people, makes it possible for us to grow this channel and keep things prospering. If you want a leg up on having access to the videos, Hate 27, for instance, might be fairly cheap on the aftermarket to our King Kayfabers who are watching us record this video live, and who ultimately will get our videos when they're fully produced before anybody else. Mitigates the kayfabe effect. This might turn into a $10 comic after the video goes live, if you can even find it offline. Anyhow, Jimmy, I am super happy to report that Pete Bagg is going back to his super popular 1990s series, Hate. It's coming back for a little 6-issue run or something like this, man, this summer. Picking right off and commenting on the exact things that need to be commented on. I in these weird tumultuous times, Jimmy, I often will think, what would Bill Hicks have to say about what's going on right now? What would George Carlin have to say about what's going on right now? just last night, dude, as I was chilling out, there are 2 seasons of new Beavis and Butthead cartoons that Mike Judge has produced. It's called Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead. And I'm watching those, and they're going to farmers markets, and they're going to escape rooms, and they're instead of music videos, they're watching ASMR videos and shit like that. Like, it's great to see these guys who were so deeply entrenched in the zeitgeist of a different time apply this sensibility to modern day. I can't wait for Pete to put pen to paper and release the new Hate comics. That being said, I think we did a Hate 1 episode. You could search for it in the channel. We took a look at that. Precious little Pete Bag stuff on the channel right now, and I got to get them for one of my nighttime streams. That's a goal for me as soon as I finish my latest deadline. We're going to skip to the back. You see all of this right here. Hate is a magazine. It's in a comic book pamphlet format, but you get, a 23-page Buddy Bradley story. And at this late period, you never know who's going to be the anchor. This is Jim Blanchard, but I think Eric Reynolds shows up at times. And then it becomes...
By the way, Stinky dies this issue.
Hey, man, you gave up the ghost. And then it becomes Fact Sheet 5 of sorts. It's Pete developed a very respected position to a lot of people as kind of a tastemaker, man. So he was given a lot of books the rub. Pause. And guys like Jim Blanchard, his homie. Self-Loathing Comics is a real snapshot of the day. Whenever I was, I stayed in Seattle for a minute and doing Hip Hop Family Tree promo. And I showed up like the day after Dame Darcy shows up at Pete Bag's house with a dude that had like a dog. She had a dude on a dog leash or something like that. So that Dame Darcy, I think she was in a episode of Blind Date or something. She ain't. That's a full persona she's developed, man. And then I see this fascist cartoonist, Tom King, Walt Holcomb. If this is not the Tom King from Big Bang Comics, there are no less than 3 Tom Kings in comics. Because there's Tom King from Big Bang. There's the obvious CIA guy who writes comics. And if this is a third dude, that's funny to me. That's a silly coincidence.
Yeah. Because it's got to be the Big Bang guy, right?
I feel like those dudes who are steeped in the Silver Age are one note. That's all they're into. I would hope it's the same guy. Stretch your muscles a little bit. You could probably ask him. And then you got Ariel Bordeaux. You got Dame Darcy showing up. Kev Scalzo.
Yeah, it's an interesting collection because so many of these people that were active around alternative comics a good bit just fell away.
Yeah.
As that alternative comics market dried up in the late 90s, it was like the last you'd see of these guys.
And I mean, I just had Jeet here on the channel, and we were talking about the 90s cartoonists, and because Fantagraphics is my publisher, I know what I make. So I have some barometer for, where everybody else kind of would stand. Jeet said that that work was all done for free, basically. Yeah. Like, they weren't making anything. So like, you could talk about dry up, but even if it was flush, like, they weren't making money. Hate was, Fanta told me that with Red Room and stuff, it was Hate that was like the next top seller. Mm-hmm. And, they said that Red Room became the number one when we got the first numbers back, which weren't that great.
Yeah.
So it's not.
I pull out, like going through dollar bins and stuff, I'll pull out Fantagraphic books where it's like, I've never heard of this cartoonist.
Right,
I've never heard of this book. Like, they publish so much. It's this format of comic book was so inexpensive in a lot of ways. Like, if somebody was interesting and wanted to do one, and had that alternative comic sensibility, I guess they said yes. But a lot of those, they must have sold, under 1,000, they must have sold 1,000 or whatever the minimum print run would be.
Right.
But they may not have even sold that many. You know what I mean? It's stuff that, like, I'll pull out and be like, I've never heard of any of this cartoonist book, anything. Yeah. It has Fantagraphics on it.
Right. Check this stuff out, man. You got to look at the ads a little bit, because you got Criminal Records, big supporters of Hip Hop Family Tree down there in Atlanta, Georgia. They got a website. But dude, this is such a moment in time. If you remember Jenny Cam, like the chick from Jenny Cam was on all the magazine shows. Like, she had a pay-per-view website where it's just her apartment, and she's got webcams
Oh,
everywhere.
wow.
And every now and then she might fuck or something like that. But like, it was like proto OnlyFans or like proto like personal porn websites and shit. And there is the Atomic Comics cam. So you go to the website, live pictures from Atomic posted on the internet.
That's incredible. This is 1997. Like,
we're talking.
They must have done like they would take a picture every.
That's what it would be.
So often.
Yeah, that's what it would be. Every couple of seconds, it would upload a photo. But you had a dedicated webcam device for sure. That was,
I'll say this:
security cam quality.
I don't know the next big thing. I don't know if that place is still in business, but like Criminal Records and Atomic Books and Last Gasp, all still alive.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. That's 27 years ago.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive considering this industry.
Right. Yeah. And it's Atomic Books, I believe, that, you could send your fan mail to John Waters.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man, let's jump into the order of business today, man. Caffy, Caffy, where Pete Bag and the great Robert Crum take it upon themselves to cut promos on Kathy Geiswait's comic in 1997, which is interesting because I would say that her heyday was probably in the 80s. My mom was a big Kathy fan, always had the shirts and stuff, whatever kind of tchotchkes and licensed materials were out there. My mom's was a Kathy fan.
Where would you even find Kathy licensed materials in the?
It's
in
like
the 80s?
Gift shop stuff.
Wow.
Like I think like every time my mom spit out a kid at the hospital gift shop, there would be like she would be gifted with Kathy merchandise. Unmistakable Crum, you got the hard ass nipples and got the like very well drawn. I mean, this is the best drawing that Kathy will ever look, and she's on the record. Ms. Geiswait, I think, man, who did she correspond with? Maybe it was Gary Trudeau. Maybe it was literally Charles Schultz. But early on, when she was getting started, maybe it was Jim Davis. But she basically sold the strip because of the conceptual part of it, as opposed to the artistry. Like conceptually, the syndicate was into it, and they basically said to her, like, this is a daily strip. You're going to be doing this thing 10 hours a day, every day for a long time. The art will catch up. And it certainly got codified into what it became, which ain't too far from this. But the fun thing about the strip is they hit all of the, dude, it's a Kathy deconstruction. It's Watchmen for Kathy Geiswait, because everything that is covered in the comic, personal body issues, relationship stuff, in terms of male suitors, but also relationship with her mother, being an upwardly mobile female in the workforce. It's all in this like 6 or 7 page thing, but of course completely perverted in the Crum and Pete Bag tradition. I say Pete Bag keeps it on the rails a little bit more than probably Crum would have done on his own.
Do you know any of the behind the scenes on this? Like, are they jamming together somewhere? Was this like we're at Angoulême and I'm there for another week or something? Like, it's so bizarre. And I can't imagine being like, Crum, here's a tight script of this, because so much of it, I don't know, it feels like it's classic cartooning where like your dialogue and the drawing sort of fit together in a way that it's hard for me to picture one of them really coming before the other.
Yeah, that'll be a question to ask Pete, because this is not going to be the only, at this era of Hate magazine, I call it magazine, but of the Hate comic, get us to 10,000 on this one, and then we'll do the Alan Moore Kool-Aid Man story that he does with Pete Bag. I think there's a little bit of rising tide raises all ships, and if this is the most popular thing, like you get your homies on to do a featured guest spot on your newest record. You know what I'm saying? It's what you do. And certainly Crum gave him the rub before he was road ready whatsoever, making him the editor of Weirdo magazine straight out of SVA pretty much, man. So there was that relationship going on. So Kathy, unmistakable Crum lettering. Cool to see what Crum does with Zipatone. Yeah, you never see that.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering too, if there's any hand of bag in the visuals, you know, if it's some kind of
I think the way he writes, certainly for himself, is he basically does the comic on a piece of notebook paper. So I would bet you that that's how he
Something like that.
scripted things for Crum. But Crum turns it to a Crum comic, and you know, puts the lettering in there the way that you know he wants it, but still has an unmistakable Crum figure. And it's cool to see the line work he's using, because he's kind of kayfabing the Kathy stuff with the face, and he tries to bring that into the rest of the comic, but it's still just like so well drawn, and you know, the different angles you see the girl, unmistakable Crum. And it's all, the ass is the focus.
Yes. Yeah, it's a fascinating bit of cartooning. It's interesting to see Crum kind of pared down in some ways.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it definitely shines through. I feel like those shoes are so much, those legs and shoes, so Crum-like.
Them cankles, man. He wants to hump them shits.
But not all the little hatching and, you know, what I associate with his mark making.
Yeah, the only other place that you would see something like this from Crum, you know, at the top of my head, is that Bijou #8, which is one of the very first show and tell videos that we did. All of the underground cartoonists, they trade off characters, and Crum does Nard and Pat, so he has a more spare style there. But dude, you doing a daily comic strip kind of style, like it's I mean, this is the most well drawn Kathy you'll ever see.
It really is too, and it doesn't make sense. Like, if you describe this to me, I wouldn't think like there's room to really draw this well,
right?
And yet it is. Almost every single panel, you know, like even holding up a dress, I look at that and go, that's a great composition. You have Kathy on either side of the dress. It's very clear what's happening in the panel, and nothing extra. You know, it's that one line. It's something to look at. It feels instructive in a weird way.
She's a temptress, man, with that booty.
And the lettering is phenomenal. It really adds to it in the way that comic strips have evolved.
For sure. Because like when she gets a job, you know, it's interesting point in time too, because this is post Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill stuff. Like when sexual harassment, there would be like Better Call Saul commercials on TV after the Anita Hill shit, where lawyers are, you know, trying to nudge you into, you know, suing your boss or whatever. So like that's something that is explored here. And it ends pretty cynically, where, you know, she's this upwardly mobile girl. She's getting like double the pay. And what does she do? You know, her friend is like, oh, you could set up an IRA, start preparing for retirement, this and that. She's like, no, I got to go shopping. I got to get like the proper attire. And then she, you know, talks about getting a power suit. But then it's this kind of like, that's not a power suit. You know, power suits were the chicks with the big old shoulder pads and all that.
I love this panel where it's almost like two panels in one.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that. And especially whenever it works in a way that you're not sacrificing clarity or making the panel look ugly compared to the other panels. It's very much cartooning 101, but there's your power suit in a exploitation comic version of Kathy.
Right. Totally. And very quickly, you know, they start a relationship. He's a married man, and she's a kept woman at this point, and loses all the weight to be aesthetically pleasing, to be a trophy wife. But the punchline is, that isn't what wet his whistle anyhow. He liked that big juicy behind.
It's funny too to see like the Crum lettering come in. You know, like
it's all over.
That kind of stuff is what I always associate his serif, his hand serif.
And then the ultimate epilogue. What you break up with your girl, she goes and sows a whole bunch of oats, gets sort of run through the ringer, and then she comes back to you. So the guy who was into that big old booty up front, he comes back, puts a bunch of kids in her, and she got even, you know, slightly more Gordo. What a comic.
It is so cynical. It's so 90s in that point of view, I think.
Right.
And I can't believe the All-Stars making it. Like, bizarre to me that this is a Crum comic. I had no idea that existed. This is one of those where, like, whenever we looked at Radical Rick and we're like, what other place, you know, what other these comics exist where it's like a good comic, but it's outside of, I don't know, the canon or whatever.
Right.
This feels like one of those.
Sure.
And it makes me wonder how many other ones like this are out there. Because I'm sure there's a bunch of gems where it's like stuff isn't easily reprinted or collected or not a graphic novel friendly or whatever. I bet these boxes, Ed, behind you, full of this kind of stuff.
Sure.
You know, it's just finding those like little gems.
Yeah. I in one of these, man, I have a Barry Smith Marvel Western story. You know,
Yeah, I'd be curious
probably,
to check that out.
Probably a good handful of those in there. So there it is. Hate 27. Shouts to Uncle Pete for bringing Hate Comics back, especially at such a as Barack Obama used to say, a divisive time in the culture, because you know, he stands his ground and talks the shit that he wants to talk. Shit, he's a comic book elder now, man. He doesn't have to cater to the Twitter mobs and all that stuff, man. You good to go?
Yes.
Let's race through this one and then set up in the other room. Guys, we're going to look at Acme Novelty Date Book number 2 in celebration of there being a forthcoming Acme Novelty Date Book number 3, which is going to be super fun because he's already super popular. And like, let's see what you let us read there. Good to go if you are. Welcome to your favorite YouTube channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Acme Novelty Date Book Volume number 2, covering 1995 to 2002. Chris Ware, under the microscope today on the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Up front, we got to let you know we are a daily YouTube channel, and at this point, we have more than 1,700 videos at your disposal. We talked about the original Acme Novelty Date Book and a lot of other Chris Ware comics, not to mention maybe your favorite titles. So hit the magnifying glass on the front page of the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel. Give the channel a search for your favorite comics, check out those episodes, and support the channel. We're on the race to 100,000 subscribers. If you get some value out of this channel, please subscribe to it. Doesn't cost you anything, and it pushes our videos out to a wider possible audience. Everybody wins, man, because you'll get these videos delivered to you right away and potentially mitigate the kayfabe effect. You want to completely mitigate it? Join our Patreon and become one of our biggest supporters. Many of them are hanging out with us in a live stream recording chat session that we have going on right now. And they're going to get all of the fully produced videos before anybody else gets them, which makes it possible for you to get the cheapest copies offline. Jimmy, let's dig into this thing, man. Just a testament to book design, a testament to the generosity of the artist to let us see things that weren't meant for prime time. And then he's just so happened to be one of the best book designers in the game. So he's going to present it to you in the best way possible. And like I said, man, this is in celebration of a forthcoming 3rd volume, which is a long time coming. You know, if this is material from 2002, this came out in 2007. It's almost 20 years, over 15 years. So it's going to cover ground when he's already, you know, very established. And that's going to be fun to see.
Right away, I get mad at it because of the fine print. When I bought this, whenever it came out, I had no problem reading this stuff. And now I'm old man and it's like, come on.
It's just like that, like MP3 that you can't hear if you're 30 years or older.
That's it.
I remember when it came out, I was 23 and I heard it. And then I was like, let me see if I could hear it. And I'm like, fuck, I didn't protect the hair in my ear follicles or whatever.
Hey, do you think he's going straight to pen and stuff like this?
Yes.
It's so good.
And I think that a lot of the sketchbook stuff is straight to pen because I've seen some evidence, and I'll put up a photo or two of some of the things I was able to find photos for. What makes me mad is that, and it's mad out of just fandom, this level of craft, this level of comic, he has a full sketchbook of a daily diary that is making to basically give to his daughter.
Yes.
He has no record of his own relationship with his father, who his father really was, spent 10 minutes with the guy or something like this. So he has this thing of just like, he doesn't want that to be the case in his own personal relationship. I bring that up because not necessarily wanting to be a voyeur or something like that, but this is comics. This is beautiful comics. And we don't get Chris Ware comics that often. So knowing that he's got a daily pursuit of doing these beautiful comics, the first place you would see them would be in like the comic art magazine, maybe in the studio you might seen it. And then there was the Jeet here, like the University of Mississippi book or something might have had some snippets in there that were small enough resolution that you couldn't read it, but he dates it and then has like as much comics as he could fit in a day after doing a full day of art and comics professionally.
That's the part that is mind-boggling, because honestly, that first page of comics, better than most comics.
Yes.
By a wide margin.
In order, this what we're looking at is Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady reps. Cartoonists do not do this.
It's true.
Most cartoonists, myself included, you guys have see almost all of my drawing. I'm learning in front of you on the printed page. It baffles me to spend even more time privately. But I was watching something very recently, Jimmy, about at this one architectural firm, almost exclusively the designs that get chosen are from the architects who sit down and fucking daydream and don't get right to drawing a design. They doodle and they allow room for discovery. And it might be an essential component to be, an A-list cartoonist of this level. Like, very possible this comic is not translated into a printed version that you could read. It's just in the sketchbook.
It's amazing to think like this is writing.
Right.
For
comics, baby.
For Ware. And then a lot of observational drawings.
Yes.
A lot of playing with materials. You'll see color stuff throughout this, which I take as, on the travels. How about this Art Spiegelman's apartment? You get to see a Gary Panther on the wall. But, a lot of this kind of observational drawing, and then notes criticizing the head's too big, the head's too small,
right.
The foot's the wrong angle. Just like, what are you doing?
Kayfabers, you got a couple of these laying around, man. Send two to the Kayfabe compound. I remember you could buy these in the back of the Fantagraphics catalogs of the time, and these would be the holders for the odd-shaped and sized Acme Novelty Library comics. So there was like a pocket for the oversized joints that would be like the Quimby the Mouse book strips, and then the smaller ones for the Jimmy Corrigan. And then I think there was like one other size that there was like a pocket for. And all comic shops had them. All the best comic shops had them. Phantom had them. Something about these pockets, like they get bumped into one or two times. Like they you never see them without duct tape anymore. And I think they cost $150 at the time. I would have loved to have had one of those things.
That's neat. Wonder how many of those were made. That's a big expensive item.
Costs $150, So and who knows how they shipped and stuff. Dude, check this out, man. At the High Tech Graphics Viewing System, Gayton worked on all three Acme comics, I guess. So is this like the big print facility or something?
Got me. But again, you see him playing with those materials. I like that one page of comics where it was like blank panels at the bottom. It'd almost be like draw your squares in and then go to town.
Yeah, he just kind of like ran out of stuff, out of the self-portrait stuff. I think once those German Crum sketchbooks came out and you got to see what Crum did to kind of build his craft, and then you notice the materials, you notice that it's rapidograph, and then you see the 1994 documentary of Crum not penciling shit, just walking around with a rapidograph in his titty pocket, pulling it out at every moment. I think it changed a lot of cartoonist mindsets. And I don't know that Chris Ware had, there's a Spiegelman portrait. I don't know that Chris Ware was doing it before noticing Crum doing it. That would be a question I would have for him.
I remember buying these off the rack and being inspired by the idea that like his sketchbook his drawing style, not the same as cartooning.
Right.
This made me think, if he's friends with Alex Ross in Chicago, like is that the time period? Is they bumping into each other?
Yeah. I mean, he's still in Chi-Town. They both are, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe.
Such unlikely bedfellows in my mind. But, man, look at that mock-up Batman toy.
Yeah, dude.
It's also bizarre. Like some of these are pretty detailed. I assume they take some time to get to. And like, what are you spending your time with? Making a Batman, like a mock-up. You know what I mean? It's a weird place for, again, a guy who I think of as being so sophisticated. And then there'll be these other elements that are very much nostalgia. And it's interesting. It's a great document. It's really cool that he would release something like this.
Yeah, I agree. And in the same way as Crum with his sketchbooks, these are to be held in the same esteem, if not higher, than their comic book works. Like these are essential pieces of their body of work. And just because you're a comic fan, like you can't shrug these off as being some kind of masturbatory aside or something.
It's an incredible high level of when we do get these comic pages and stuff. They're so extremely well done. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, How long do you think it takes him to do a page of those comics in a sketchbook? This has to be a multi-day, like ongoing piece, right?
Right. Yeah, it's the
Please be that way.
It's the compulsion, you know, it's the compulsion to make stuff. And look, Matt with Mazzucchelli, talk about strange bedfellows, right? You know, you don't do it unless you can't not do it, basically, man. So
and then like studies, right, of like comic books,
right?
Sort of.
I think this is like, you know, Chester Brown would talk about this. Like he would trace off Wonder Woman things on those like little like, you know, that you like lift it and it makes the image disappear, but it has like the waxy thing. And he would like trace a Wonder Woman cover, but then like draw titties and pussy. But he's a you know, Catholic boy or something, so he would have to erase it. But then like when you lift it up, you could see like the etching of like the titties. So like he would have to like tear it to a million pieces and burn it and stuff.
This is instructive too to me, like almost emulating different artist styles.
Yeah, some Bud Fisher type
and
elements.
Again, that looks like a nib, you know, it looks like you are playing with some different, playing with different tools.
Right. Now he did design the Quimby store aesthetics and stuff. Is that like a little piece of that?
Also excessive amount of notes.
Right. Yeah. Very private stuff, like a lot of notes to self. Getting some jam pieces in there, man. Getting
how about those too?
Getting a Burns, getting a Clouds, and then he's got to do one. And he just now I was with these three guys in the thing that I got my passport for was to go to Denmark, and it was with these three dudes. And Ware won an award at their big show, and because we were all the like foreign guests, like I got to be at the big kids table, you know. And when Ware goes up there, everybody's just talking regular at the table and shit. And then Ware gets called to go up there, and I saw him go into Chris Ware character. I saw him go into kayfabe. I saw him roll his shoulders and stand up and go up there. And I also saw Burns and Dan Klaus straight up laughing. That like it's like here he goes again, like that types of shit.
Look at the Burns eye, this second eye, how it's like sideways.
Yeah, it's that Facetasm type shit.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I almost thought that was a Pete bag.
Yeah, it's funny whenever it's a reference of like, I assume a photograph, you know, sometimes like an older historical figure or whatever.
This is the piece.
Must be researching. Yeah,
I went online yesterday on Marv Wolfman's Facebook because like I let Marv Wolfman know that Chris Ware drew him once from one of these photos, man. So like that's a young Marv Wolfman in his cosplay days. And there'll be a Sullivan Grundy standing right about there. But when you compare the two, when you look at the photo and you look at this piece, very clear that it's drawn in ink, because like the drapery does not match up close at all. And you know, I imagine you could even see sketchiness there.
I've seen artists talk about the value of drawing straight to ink, especially cartoonists.
I found it in my own life because like when you're a kid and you're like noodly, it gives you a more confident pencil line. You know, you choose closer to the right line the first time.
Man, I wonder what the heck this is for.
All of it, right? It's all instruction. From a photo sent by Eric Reynolds. You know, there must have been some dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. If you could draw like this, how do your comics not look like this? Right.
Like, and you know, he goes deep into like what comics is to him, you know, and it's about selling an idea. It's about intuition. It's about a dreamlike state.
It reminds me a lot though of different cartoonists that work in different styles. Like you would think there'd be a book of his that looks like this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you could draw this much this way and not have some story that this would fit.
This right here it's Henry Darger's apartment, and he got an invite on this date so it's his meditation on checking out Henry Darger's apartment, and like from memory trying to like reinterpret the space. So that was one of my little notes.
Gotta wonder too what goes through your head if you're Chris Ware. You're obviously spending so much time, look at that, man, studying Peanuts a little bit.
Right, dude. And then we see the wood shedding for that inevitable Acme novelty cover.
But what must go through your head when you're in a Henry Darger space and thinking of that guy's entire life spent there?
Right.
You know, knowing that it's headwise, maybe not that far removed.
It's just, you know, a wife and a kid away and a couple of friends. You know, the difference between that is some social skills.
Yeah, which if you ask Chris Ware about, he would deny having any. Sure.
Right.
Jeez, man. Wow. How's that a sketchbook?
Oh, I know.
I like to imagine the original sketchbooks of this must be like 2 feet by 3 feet, because otherwise,
there's that Jim Woodring documentary
a welder
where he has a bookshelf full of sketchbooks that are completely filled, over 100 of them,
doing them in color.
Yeah. And by the way, this is the stuff that he lets us see. You know, maybe he has 30 volumes of this. You know, when Farrell came to town to stay, I remember he filled an entire sketchbook up in the 1 month that he stayed here.
That's true. That's a great last page. I didn't realize this was the last page being the mock-up for the first volume of this.
Super smart, right? And then
a little bit of insight into the process of putting these together.
Do an actual comic for the thing. This was that period. He like broke his style down into straight up circle template shapes and just made magic with that. Super cool. So we are very, very excited for this inevitable release of Acme Novelty Datebook number 3. And the best way to celebrate that forthcoming, you know, put in your pre-orders, all that stuff. Maybe if it does super well, maybe you get a 4th volume before 15 years is up. But yeah, get your hands on these books. They are essential if you're into the Cartoonist, and should be on your bookshelf and studied every now and then.
As good as any sketchbooks I've come across.
Absolutely, man. Good to go?
Yep.
Cool. We did it. All right, guys. The last couple vids we shoot we're just gonna do it on our own, but you know, we'll get those to you right away. And we're about to go shoot with Uncle Jeff and Dave Cho, man. So wish us luck, and we'll get these videos to you as soon as possible. Thank you guys for joining us, and take care.